Today, if you're a Nigerian, expect the new Naira notes. That's because the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, will unveil the redesigned Naira notes today. The CBN Governor, Godwin Emefiele, said the bank decided not to wait till Thursday, December 15 date of the unveiling, and the redesigned Naira notes will definitely be unveiled today.
Emefiele explained that the early unveiling will help hasten the phasing out of the existing Naira notes. According to him, the CBN will not shift its deadline for all old notes to be returned to commercial banks in exchange for newly designed ones. The CBN MPC also hiked monetary policy to 16.5% from 15.5%, whilst all other parameters remained unchanged. Now, joining us this morning is Godwin Ebele, Chief Economist, Streetnomics Limited, to discuss more on this. Good morning, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me as well.
All right, so maybe we should talk about the fact that they have decided to unveil early. We already had an expectation for when this was going to happen. There had been a lot of backlash first about the fact that the Naira notes are being redesigned now, but we're starting to see a lot of these monies being brought back into the commercial vaults of these banks. Talk to us about if there are any underlying reasons and what you think about this early release of the redesigned notes.
Well, I'm not surprised that the central bank is seeking to, introduce this design notes a bit early. We've seen recently how that policy announcement made, in the past few weeks have put a lot of pressure on the Naira and also in exchange of the dollar. There've also been some heightened uncertainty around how the new regime of the notes or the new notes regime would pan out, as it were. So, in the first place, Nigerians were not expecting the policy around the redesigned currency and an exchange in 45 days. That 45 days made it a crunch time, sort of. So Nigerians were not expecting it. The central bank announced it. As a result, events followed accordingly, and also panic exchange followed accordingly and all that. So we've seen the heightened impact. A lot of banks had to open their branches on Saturdays to take the demand. It's been so overwhelming for the financial institution to deal, with the demand side or the supply side of the Naira notes in exchange to dollar, as the case may be. There's also been a form of heightened dollarization of the economy because for those who cannot get their physical cash into the banks, they've had to find a way to exchange for the dollars. And for the fear of what policies may be rolled out, subsequently, and how that may affect the Naira. There've also been some increased purchase of the dollar, as a means to, secure the future of the Naira in context, and so that people can also sell the dollar, much later into the future next year, and then buy new Naira notes. So it's not just conventional in terms of people seeking to save the Naira notes or buy dollars. It's also the round-tripping effect, the dollarization on the economy effect, and all that. So the central bank seeking to engage a bit earlier than it's previously announced would sort of help to put a face of hope to the already crunch time situation, as a case. So it's just technically like a damage control conversation, but which can be relatively perceived as fairly smart by the apex institution, because in the first place, 45 days was a lot of crunch time to have this done, and there's nowhere in the world where you exchange Naira notes or where you exchange the currency in terms of withdrawing all old notes and introducing new ones in 45 days. Those events can take up to 2 years, because there has to be a proper execution plan, and the supply-demand side and all that is a major part of that plan. Let's not also forget that the Q1 elections are a major undertone reasons why the central bank had to peg, the return of the old notes, or declare the old notes as illegal tenders by 1st of February. So these are different emerging narratives that are informing the decision the central bank has taken to sort of like relax the pressure on the market, but the pressure still exists.
All right. I mean, you've spoken a lot. We've taken a look at how this will definitely affect the elections, of course, here in February, just a few months away from now. Let's come down a bit to residents, to citizens, to Nigerians who live with the streetnomics. Let me use your word. How would this Naira notes trickle down to affect them? Looking at the fact that this is going to be launched today, how would Nigerians who live their everyday life and are struggling currently with a high inflation rate be affected? Let's talk to them as well. What do you think?
Well, Nigerians are already been affected because with increased uncertainty around the currency also comes increased demand, increased demand for both the exchange currency in dollars and also increased panic buying because there's just a lot of uncertainty around it. So that has already pressured on inflation. We'll get to see the numbers as we go on into the new year. Let's not forget that we are close to Christmas season, and the big confusion around the recent flood has impacted on supply chain, impacted on current inventory stock. It's very short time, to successfully pull this off. And that's because there's always an inflationary downside to the supply-demand dynamics if it doesn't pull off successfully. Really underestimated the demand for FX in Nigeria. There is demand based on official obligations. There's demand based on unofficial obligations. There's also demand based on fear of what will happen to the currency. Those are three layers of demand that's currently affecting the FX exchange and all that to the Naira. So when you look at all of these things in its entirety, the big question is, can the central bank supply the Naira notes enough that it will not lead to some form of further down inflationary pressure for the average Nigerian? That's a very big question that needs to be answered, because if you're trying to execute this in 45 days, it means that you have a strategy to really supply enough, or the barest minimum notes or supply of money that the economy needs to run. However, we also know that politicians also have contacts in most of these commercial banks and even own a lot of them, in the real sense. So what game of play would be the political economy in extracting new notes, right, to pressure on vote buying on the day of the election? So either way you look at it, it's still going to lead to some form of cost of living pressure or cost pressure, preferably, on the economy. And that's because of the crunch time nature of this assignment or this project that's been executed. So the average Nigerian is not, unfortunately, at the mercy or at the receiving end of that pressure, coupled with other economic events that are constantly unfolding and reinforcing cost of living at new levels.
Wow, there are so many areas and angles to unpack from this when we look at the number of Nigerians that are financially excluded and how this will trickle down. We could extend this conversation further, but Gospel Ebele, we would like to have you join us again. But thank you very much for your time with us today.
Thank you very much for having me. Really do appreciate being here this morning. Have a great day.
We will. You too.